Hi guys, welcome to our SketchUp channel and welcome to Go Beyond SketchUp. In this week's video, we're going to talk about the Move tool, copy, and erase. I'm pretty sure most of you know exactly what the Move tool does. I'm pretty sure most of you know how to use the Move tool, but the idea of creating this content is to give you a little bit more knowledge in how to explore and see what these tools can offer us in order to become better modelers in SketchUp. I've created these three solids, and in order to move them, you have to select them. So I'm going to select this element here. I'm going to activate my Move tool, and I can click anywhere I want. But notice that where my pointer is, if I click right there, that point becomes the reference point in which I'm gonna move my group. You can even click outside. You don't even have to touch that element. You can click outside, but that point where I'm clicking right there, it becomes the reference point in which I'm gonna move my element. Now, you also know that you can move elements by entering a distance in your measurement box. If you want to move it, let's say a specific distance, you just have to enter your distance in the reference box and then your element move that distance. Now, let's have a look at elements like this. Let's select this cone. I'm gonna call this truncated cone, I guess. But notice that when I select my Move tool, I can see some points in each corner of that bounding box. I can use these points in the corner to move my element in a more precise way. Even there's a corner right there, and if you get really close to it, you'll see how that element becomes transparent, and you can be sure that you can click that corner so you don't have to orbit around. You just have to get close to it, and the element becomes transparent, and you can click there, and that corner becomes the reference point when I want to move that element. Click and release will place that element in the new location. When the Move tool is active, you can see down on the status bar some modifier keys. This is not just exclusive of the Move tool. Every time that you select a tool in SketchUp, you have a series of options by pressing some keys. In this case, we're gonna see what happens with the Move tool. I'm gonna select this element and I'm gonna activate my Move tool. Now, if you can see down on the status bar, if I press Alt or the Alt key on Windows or the Command key on Mac, that will toggle different points. Tapping the Alt command, I can toggle the corners. I can toggle the midpoints of the edges in that group. Clicking Alt again, I can toggle the middle of the sides. And if I click again, I can toggle the center of that group. So selecting the right points can save you lots of time, and it just reduces the amount of clicking that you have to do in order to move elements or to move geometry in SketchUp. So please keep an eye on that status bar. Like I said, this is not exclusive of the Move tool. There's a lot of modifier keys that could be very useful. The Move tool is not only to move geometry or elements in SketchUp. The Move tool can do more than that, and that's why it's very important to know these modifier keys, which allows us to make these tools to perform in different ways. Let's have a look at the Move tool. Let's select this element, activate the Move tool, and let's press the Control key if you're on Windows or the Option key if you're on a Mac. When you press the Control key, have a look at the little plus sign next to my pointer. That means that I'm not gonna just move, I'm gonna copy my element. And that gives us the opportunity to create arrays in SketchUp. Before you do anything else, before you click in any other command, you can tell the SketchUp that you want 5 copies of that element by clicking times 5. Have a look on my measurements box, enter, and then you have 5 copies of my original element, and these copies are going to be equidistant to that initial distance that I enter. You can also select those elements that you just created activate the move tool, press the control key and do the same. Times 5. If you're not happy with that, you can say times 3, and that is a time saver. Instead of clicking or copying all this, you can streamline and make your process, your modeling process, much faster. Now you can also have, let's go back, you can also have the ability to, instead of copying a series of elements, you can also have the option to fill the space in between those. So let's have a look at the screen. I'm gonna copy this element here and I wanna say to SketchUp, divide that by 3 and see it places 3 elements evenly spaced. So that space there, that space there, that space there is in between my 3 elements. And again, without clicking any other command, you can tell the SketchUp to divide it by 8 and that places 8 elements evenly spaced. This process can be done with other tools, not just the move tool. We can do a very similar process with the rotate tool. So let's have a look at this example in here. I just created this solid and I'm just gonna have the axis origin as my reference point. I'm gonna select this element and I'm going to activate the rotate tool, and I'm gonna say press control and I'm gonna copy that 180 degrees. And before I do anything else, I can say divide that by 5 and then it'll place a radial array. I can say divide it by 10 and that's what you create. In the same way we did before, I can select that element, activate my rotate, and then control to copy. I can say 10 degrees for an angle, and then I can say times 36, and there you have. Still without, again, remember, without touching any other command, you can come and say times 12, and then you have that another kind of array. One thing to take away from this video is that you can use different commands in order to do different things. So the move tool, of course, is the move tool, but it can also be the copy tool. Just get familiar with your modifier keys, and we're gonna talk about this in later videos, but the modifier keys is what made SketchUp so versatile. So I hope you like the content of this video, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe below and like this video, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.